So it's the 17th of May, and this is one of those trees where I had quite a bit of footage set aside to make a timey-wimey video. I haven't featured this tree since early 2020, I think it was. Certainly I had some interesting footage of this in the winter. There was some footage of me carving these little scars here and here, which were looking quite ugly, and they're hopefully looking better now. I still have the scar on my thumb where I sliced it whilst I did that, but there you go. We're going to jump back in time quickly now to the little bit of footage that I was able to salvage. So, as the saying goes. For all that the books will tell you, oaks are slow growers. Once they get the bit between their teeth, they do tend to push out quite quickly. I'm going to pinch this branch back to that leaf there, and same with that one. I think I'm going to put some pieces of wire on these sacrifice branches to hold them down, because otherwise they're going to take over from the apex here, and which could lead to this part dying off, which is undesirable. So what I'm going to try and do is just, because this pot is full of holes, it's fairly simple, and these are long enough, I can just put a piece of wire to said hole like so, and I can just grow in that direction now. I'll do the same for these other ones off camera so as not to bore you, and then these can keep fattening the trunks at the base and feeding it with the bigger whilst I'm pinching the top. These pieces at the top are being pinched to get ramification. All those sacrificial branches pegged down, allowing the top to grow less restrictedly. Restrictedly, is that a word? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think restrictedly is a word. Back to what I'm doing with it now. These are sacrifice branches, and I'm just going to cut back this where it's got a kind of a double head. I just want it to extend, and I think I want to put a little piece of wire on this branch, and also on that branch to get it to go in that direction. I'm going to cut this one back to a nice fat juicy bud there and there, and indeed there, and this one, and this one, and this one I'm going to wire down. Again, I still want this to be the dominant bud at the moment, so yeah, this definitely needs wiring down. A little bit of oversized wire really for the job, but it's actually quite often easier to put a thicker gauge piece of wire on a delicate piece of stem like this, which hasn't even turned woody yet. So I'm just going to bring that down and around and up again whilst it's still green. Give it some movement, and then having done that, I'm going to pinch out the growing tip on there. This wire won't need to stay on very long at all. This piece, again, I'm going to pinch out that growing tip, and then a little bit of wire. Try not to hide what I'm doing too much. Again, a fairly oversized piece of wire, but a fairly delicate piece of branch. There we go. Okay, so we'll let that keep growing and we'll come back to it in another, well, couple of weeks or so. It's the 24th of May today, and this fusion project is growing well. Yeah, people will tell you oaks don't make good bonsai because they grow so slowly, and amongst other things. But this branch, for example, I've put on, well, probably almost 6 inches of fresh new growth in just over a month. So yeah, they can grow quite quickly. I'm not going to touch these pieces. These pieces are denoted as sacrifice branches, with aiming to fuel the tree, fuel the roots, and speed up the fusion process, which is still happening slowly. Pull out some of these weeds, which seem to be, well, growing faster than everything else, as always. Give you a quick spin round. Again, this branch at the back, which is right down horizontally, so that it can grow without taking away from the dominance of the top of the tree, which I don't want to lose vigour. That'll do. That's enough weeding for now. I can do some more off camera. I don't want to bore you with that. All I'm going to do today is I'm going to pinch out the growing tip here, and that branch, I'm going to leave that one because it's too small, hasn't grown enough yet, and likewise haven't had any growth from where I pinched last time yet on those two branches. So we'll pop that back and let it continue growing. It's the 14th of June, and hopefully the sun isn't washing this out too much, but we're getting some good growth on this oak fusion project. Sadly, most of it being weed, plenty of that, which of course, well, on the one hand I suppose it is covering the surface of the soil with leaves, which is stopping the sun from shining directly on the soil. It kind of helps a little bit, like a living mulch. On the other hand, those leaves are transpiring, so they're still losing moisture from the pot, or even going out of the side of the pot through the air holes, which isn't particularly helpful of them. Got rid of most of the weed. Sometimes when you've got a long-term project like this, yeah, it's worth putting it somewhere where you can just kind of ignore it, weed and feed and whatnot, but otherwise, yeah, it's not a tree to be fiddled with every day. Not going to need something doing to it every day, so you can just kind of leave it to one side. But then of course you do get problems with weeds and things if you're not careful, so never mind, no harm done really. These pieces that were wired down to act as sacrifice branches, somehow the ends got broken off of that as well, so that bit's died back. But again, no real harm done, and for the most part the tree is budding where I chopped it. This piece has gone bananas, so I'm going to chop that as well back again. Obviously this top piece is where I want to be building my crown from. I'm going to chop that as well, but the rest I'm going to need to leave. Need to keep an eye on some of these bits of wire in case they cut in, but they don't appear to be at the moment. So that's all the work I'm going to do on this tree today. Now, actually that piece is cutting in just there. The bang is a rook scarer in the field behind us, which is really annoying because it goes off early in the morning and late at night, and the poor dog Cooper, he's scared to be out here. He wants to be out in the garden, he comes out in the garden, the thing goes bang and he runs back in again. And he's not as mobile as he used to be due to the arthritis. It's good for him to spend some time outside, but at the moment he's just not enjoying it, so what can you do? It's the 23rd of June today, and I popped the can in for scale as normal, although I probably already did in earlier parts of this video. One of the issues with making a timey-wimey video is if I don't have time or don't remember to go and check what I said in earlier bits, I repeat myself, or I've already shown you the can for scale, but there you have it. So the tree has continued to grow well, putting out all sorts of shoots in all sorts of directions, which I'm now going to trim back again. As I said before, the books will all tell you that oaks are slow growers, but you know, this has put on 4 inches of growth in as many weeks, possibly less weeks in fact. So I'm just going to be cutting back these long shoots back to a leaf node, in the hope that I can keep it compact but also encourage a further flush of growth. They won't necessarily grow out in the places that I want or in the ways that I want. Don't want that piece, let's take that off. That piece is just growing up through the middle and interfering, so again, there you have almost 6 inches, I guess, of growth. So gonna trim these pieces back. This is essentially a sacrifice branch, but I'm going to take off that piece just to try and keep it elongating. That'll help fatten up the base of this trunk much better. Again, some of these pieces are just going to be sacrifice branches. But I'll trim back these side shoots in favour of this piece, although this piece keeps growing up. It could become the dominant apex, which I don't want. So yeah, no, I'm actually going to take that off and avoid that issue. Okay, keep trimming. Back the apex slightly. As I probably said in the earlier video, this is actually nine little seedlings grown from acorns collected locally, and they're actually wrapped around a wooden form inside to help me get that thick tapered trunk. A closer view of that tapering trunk. This piece is just to fatten the trunk that it's growing from, and will get removed at a later date, but we are definitely achieving some good fusion now. It's the 14th of July and the tree is growing well, not necessarily in all the right places, but you can never entirely predict where new growth is going to come from. What I want to do now is prune back some of these long bits that one day I want to be branches, whilst leaving these bits that are going to be sacrifice branches, and hopefully the tree, or the trees, because it started as 9 separate trees, will continue fattening and fusing. It may well need a wire at some point, I fear, but probably will do that in the autumn, when it's easier to see what I'm doing, although oak can be quite difficult to wire because it's quite a hard wood by its very nature. Where is the apex? I'm going to cut that right back, and I'm going to trim this piece back as well. Then, although I said I was going to leave some of these sacrifice branches, they are kind of in the way, so I'm going to shorten it back. In fact, I'm going to take that back there, and that piece growing down can take over as a leader and continue its outward growth. That piece I want to leave on. It's going to be right in the front of the trunk, but it's fattening up the central tree, so I'm going to leave that in place. It won't hurt this tree to think it's been nibbled at by a passing deer or some such. Hopefully that'll encourage it to throw out more growth. As I say, these long pieces are just kind of getting in the way on the bench. Yeah, so I'll just pull out a few weeds, and I think we'll call it a day on this timey-wimey video, and we'll just put this one back and we will revisit it at a future date. As I say, I shall be having to do some work on it over winter to remove limbs I don't want, and perhaps do a bit of wiring, so I'll make another video when I do that. And I've said it before, but if only the trees grew as fast as the weeds, you could make a bonsai in a year, probably. There we go. Back round to the front. Quickly remove those pieces that are blocking the view of the trunk, and now all that remains to say is thank you so much for watching. Please do look after yourselves. Stay safe, everybody. Do the usual YouTube things, the liking, the subscribing, and all the commenting you like. But yeah, stay safe.